Hey yo, what it did, y'all? Let's get right into it. Today, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys how to make the shield for specifically the Hex Blaster that I play, but also just generally any caster that uses a shield, quite frankly, as I feel like the technique used here isn't explicitly for just Hex Blast. It is definitely one of the easier ones when you use on like Hex Blast or any like Fizz spell. Fizz and Chaos spells have this a little bit easier, but I think being able to make a strong caster shield is just good for, any of the given builds, whether that be, you're playing like Fire Dot, for example, if you're like playing RF, for example. I wanted to be able to show you the methodology behind getting a shield like this put together, as I think this is just a good, strong damage increase for any character that is in fact still wearing a shield, whether it just be for shield charge for movement or because you really need the suffixes for resistances, which I know for me on Hex Blast, that's definitely the case. Especially like before Mage Blood, you really need that shield to help cover some resistance spots, or as you start to get damage in other slots, such as going for a focused amulet, etc. This becomes a very valuable way to still get damage out of your offhand, as opposed to just running a second weapon when you just don't have the suffix space to afford that. So, before I get into it, hey, look, if you find this helpful, like, comment, subscribe. It helps me, the channel. It also, gets the video out there, which is the most important thing. Just gets it into the other hands of other people who really need this information. And, if you subscribe with notifications on, you'll, know when I post more so you can get more helpful information. Hope this helps. Let's get into it. So, the main thing about the caster shields is that you have to start on a pure int based, which is already a turnoff for a lot of people. If you're, a fan of suppression, if you're a fan of spell suppression, this craft is not for you. Just gonna put it out there. Or you'll have to get it in other ways, because this base is incapable of having suppression on it, even with recombinators added to the game, unless you specifically craft the suffix onto it with the crafting bench, which has a very, very tiny amount of suppression. So I'm not really including that in how I would operate. There are two ways to do this craft. I'm going to start with method number one, which is by having a fractured prefix of choice. We're going to use percent spell damage for this example. It is worth noting, this fracture tends to be pretty expensive starting at T2 and up. So be aware before you make this, but this is one of the two ways to go about it. And it is personally my preferred method, but it's because I don't value the life roll as much. And more importantly, I don't really, like I said, we use a shield because I want good suffixes. And so this craft allows us to focus on the suffixes and then come back afterwards. So the rare item with the fractured suffixes, we can start spamming essences, which allow me to show you very quickly the math here for what we're looking at, right? Let's say I have this already fractured. I have to indicate that we are in fact using a fractured base. Spell damage, we fracture this on. One thing of note, by the way, this is very important for the rest of the craft, for things that are not specifically Hex Blast or Fizz spells. You notice that all of the cold, fire, and lightning percent damage are also blocked off by percent spell damage being on here. This applies if you were to fracture any of the other mods on as well. And this is a very important part of the process for getting the slam towards the end of the process to work correctly. So we get that on. And for Hex Blast in particular, I value the suffixes spell critical chance, chaos resistance, and a third suffix, whether that be another defensive suffix, maybe it's attributes, maybe it's a veiled suffix, whatever that may be. You choose for your build what that looks like. I know in a previous version of mine, I went for ailment avoidance, which does make this craft a little bit harder, but still a very viable option. Now, the best way to do this is to spam Essences of Envy, specifically because of the fact that Envy, like Chaos Rest, has a horrendously low weighting of 1500 across all 6 of its tiers, whereas Spell Crit is 6000, Avoid Ailments is 4000. And so if you were going for ailment avoidance, I'm not going to show you ailment avoidance. It's because I'm using this for Hex Blast, and my Hex Blaster is a Sanctum character, therefore I don't need ailment avoidance. But if you're going for ailment avoidance, it's about 100. And if you were going for crit, if I could take off the ailment avoidance for a second, it's also about 100 at T1. It gets better as you like, if you start to settle. So, like I said here, Essence of Envy. Now, somebody commented on my previous video, one of my previous crafting videos about yes, a 1 in 12 took over 40. Yeah, averages are averages. Sometimes they work out very nicely. Sometimes they do not. So you're going to start hitting. And I mean, if you're recording a video, the game gives it to you quickly. This is not how quick it goes for me in game, but you have spell critical chance and chaos resistance. This is beautiful. I love these two suffixes. We have an open suffix, which gives me some options here. So option number one is to do all options here go suffixes cannot be changed. That's the first thing. We're looking to add a third suffix of choice. In a world where you don't have one of chaos resistance or spell critical chance on here initially, like let's say you were going for ailment avoidance because you were doing a T17 mapping setup for Hexblast, you could actually just force on spell crit by reforging crit after this craft. We have crit and chaos resistance already here, so the options are reforge chaos for max chaos res, not relevant to my character, but just an option I want you to be aware of in case you need it for something that you're working on. Or what we're going to actually do here is a veiled orb, because I'm looking for a third suffix, and there are no good third suffixes that are worth forcing on outside. Like, you can roll regular single resistances, but I like hybrid resistances or hybrid with chaos, etc. So we hit it, and we're looking for a veiled suffix here. If this were to, let me just, like, example wise here, if you know, this is being nice to me. When I was doing this earlier, it kept giving me prefixes. Here we go. When it gives you prefix, unfortunately, you just have to unveil it, then suffixes can't be changed, and scour that off, because that's not the goal. So now let's do it again. That's the suffix. Here we go. So we have our suffix and we kept our suffixes cannot be changed. Nice. Cost efficient. We're going to unveil this suffix here, and now you get to pick your choice. If your character needs int, this is a great place to get it for this unveil. Or, you know, again, hybrid res is really strong. Chance to deal double damage is very nice. Actually, you saw my current shield, so we're going to go with chance to deal double damage. Then, with suffixes cannot be changed on here and 3 suffixes and our fractured prefix, we can now just reforge chaos. It is actually that simple. Reforge chaos, it guarantees the chaos spells. As I kind of showed in some of the other crafting videos, if you haven't seen those, go check those out if you need other gear for Hexblast as well. Now that we have, what do you call it? Since we have all of that already blocked, let me switch this over to an Exalt for a second so I can show you what I mean. We already have, there's only chaos spell skills as a prefix. We filled up our suffixes. So reforge chaos hits this. And the reason I said that the like percentage spell damage or the percentage damage in general on the item is important for other elements, because chaos and fizz both work under this understanding that there's only +1 fizz or +1 chaos, but the fire, cold, and lightning have % damage as well. But if you already have % damage on it, you will then instead just go, boom, look at that. Fire is already blocked. We can just put +1 fire on if we wanted to as well. Obviously, we're going for chaos, so we get chaos. This ES is fortunate and unfortunate at the same time. I personally would have preferred to hit something a little, like I would have preferred life or an open prefix. But you know, if you hit a bad roll here, like this is technically more ES than me crafting life would have given me life onto this, which would have been the preferred end step. Let me just show you here, just in case. If this ends up being the result of your reforge, you'll just craft on life and this shield is done. It actually is that simple. You know, this is why I say like this is my preferred method of doing it. It just comes at a cost of the base being very expensive. Like especially the higher tier spell damage you go. If you are okay with lower tiers of spell damage, this is a very reasonable base to get your hands on. Or if you're okay with lower bases of shield, because Harmonic Spirit Shield is only a couple % better than say like a U Spirit Shield, or even if you did this on like a titanium or whatever it may be. The important thing is more so getting the +1 and a good amount of spell damage with the rest of the suffixes intact. You could even spam more essences if you wanted for better chaos res, or not chaos res, better spell crit chance here. This is craft version number 1. This is definitely one of my preferred ways of doing it. I think it's just unbelievably simple, and it's very straightforward. It's also low amounts of clicks. The next one I'm about to show you, technically stronger. A lot more clicking involved if you want good rolls. So let's say instead we live in a world where you have, let's say, fractured chaos res on the shield. You have to fracture one of the suffixes for this other version to go through. That's why I wanted to show you one with both. One method that is fractured suffix, one method that is fractured prefix. I think it's just valuable to see that you can craft this item from either direction, especially if you're an SSF player who has a good suffix shield lying around, but not necessarily a good prefix shield lying around. And for this craft, we're going to spam Essence of Greed until we hit a good tier of % spell damage. I am going to show you very quickly how nightmarish this number actually is, so you can start to kind of see why some people might prefer to pay the cost up front for the insane like prefix fracture that I showed instead. Because if I just go fractured chaos res, boom, it's on there, and I want spell damage. I mean, T1 spell damage is literally over 2000 S, so we're probably not hitting that. Let's say T3, because if I'm doing it this way, I'm willing to settle a little bit. and 300 still at T3. If I go to T2, it's still almost 700 just to hit this. So we're batting a very uphill battle going about it this way. And so, like, obviously I'm going to do one that's like a lot more of a settle here. I'm just going to kind of show you, like, the rolling is kind of a nightmarish process. You might even hit suffixes that are good enough to stop on outright. Like this right here would make me consider stopping. This is life, T1, like fractured chaos, T1 Elirez, T3 spell crit. Like I would consider just, like I would literally just go, what if I tried suffixes cannot be changed, Aug chaos right here. Oh, it took off my life. Not good enough, but we also don't have the spell damage on this anyways, right? Like you can't craft spell damage on, so you'd still be like taking a damage loss, but you'd be able to get like another crafted prefix or other things of that nature, alongside the large amount of life if you just wanted to settle and, you know, take a little bit of the damage loss there. Otherwise, let me take off this mod. Here we go. You just keep going. We're going to go until the next time I see spell damage, or if I see enough, if I roll enough of these tormentedly, I will just put it on. But I'm just kind of showing you the idea. You're looking for, can I get, okay, that's +1 spell, fizz spell, but that doesn't actually do what I'm looking for. It's just not showing here. So, oh, nice, percent cold damage. I'm now going to turn that into spell damage very quickly. Note, if you're playing like cold dot, that's actually really, really good for you, right? But spell damage, let's just say we hit like T4, is what it is. The next step here is that we need an open suffix. Again, I'm just going to very quickly show you here. Let's just say in a world you had full suffixes. We need a suffix in order to do suffixes cannot be or prefixes cannot be changed. And if you don't have the ability to do suffixes or prefixes cannot be changed, you technically have two options here. If you're feeling like a baller, you just send the add remove chaos anyways, and you miss. You technically took, like, you still got the +1, you got the spell damage and the +1 spells here, but you missed. You have to craft on life. Your suffixes suck. I don't recommend doing it this way because the gamble sucks when you miss, but when you hit, it's really nice and really efficient. The safer way to go about it, if you wanted to just like safe gamble, make sure you have all 3 of your prefixes, is to annul, hit the annul on a suffix, and then prefixes cannot be changed. Prefixes cannot be changed. It has to be Aug chaos, like add remove chaos here. Add remove Aug, same name, depending on who you talk to. Old names. I realized in the comments of some of my previous videos that I said the word Aug, not realizing that the new, like not remembering that the new name is in fact add remove, but you have to Aug chaos here, add remove, because if you reforge chaos, let me just show you very quickly, you can hit chaos, like maximum chaos res, instead of your targeted prefix, and that means you'll have to spend another 2 div putting prefixes cannot be changed on. So prefixes cannot be changed, add remove. Boom. We now have our prefixes taken care of. Now we can protect our prefixes again. And my recommendation, my course of action from here on this type of shield is we scour. Then 2 options. I'm going to show you the high end. I'm going to show you the low end finish first, and then I'll show you the high end finish. Prefixes cannot be changed. And then we're going to Veiled Orb. You want to craft on an attribute if you want to like play for high damage rolls. DD focused strength is actually really, really good here. Just for like Hexblast in particular, so I'll probably take that. And then you can craft on either the spell critical chance stuff. That's, you can't craft that on here. My bad. I was thinking of something else. But you can craft on like double damage, or you can craft on curse effect here, and this is a done shield. If you really want that spell, but if you really want that spell crit, you're like, I need that spell crit. Like, I need it, baby. So if you really need it, let's go back a couple steps. When you're right here at prefixes cannot be changed, you can either reforge or add remove crit. Add remove is about 2.5 div. The last time I checked, it might be 3 div now. You know, check the price of this on your own to make sure that you're willing to pay the price each time you add remove crit. Every time you add remove crit, if I show you this item here and I hover over the word critical, the only suffix that exists is spell crit. In fact, it's actually the only crit suffix on the shield at base at all, or crit modifier on a suffix at all, or on a shield at all, period. So add remove crit, get a good tier that we like, and then decide how big your balls are. Or how much are you willing to gamble, right? Because if you're willing to go just a little bit harder here, you can do prefixes cannot be changed one more time, and go for the veiled orb, and you see it whiffed, so this is why we don't gamble. But you know, if it hits, oh my god, it's not hitting. There we go. If it hits, you now have an unveiled suffix of your choosing. Double damage looks beautiful here, and you have the perfect shield, so to speak, right? You have like what I would consider to be the ideal shield for this build. Now, if you want, again, like I said, that's a bit of a gamble though, so maybe you're not feeling particularly gambly. Nothing stops you from literally just crafting double damage and calling it a day, or you need a hybrid resistance, you need attributes, whatever it may be, craft that on instead. Those are the two methods that I wanted to show you guys. Just again, very quick, remember that this craft method works well for other damage types as well, not just chaos. Chaos just has the easiest go of it because it doesn't actually require the spell damage to be on there, but we want the spell damage anyways because we're crafting a proper damage shield, and so that's just a part of the process. Spell damage, or again, fire damage, cold damage, lightning damage, if your build is applicable to it, that's the proper way to make a high damage caster shield. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you found this useful, like, interact with it, get it out to people, send it to people who need the craft. I just really want people to know how to craft these things. I'm tired of seeing people get fleeced by the market for prices on these things, which also, by the way, because this is such a cheap craft, you should also be checking the market to make sure that you're not like overpaying for shields, right? Like you might be able to just find a finished shield for relatively cheap compared to the cost of a full craft. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys aren't out here getting fleeced. I saw that this was a question that came up a couple of times to me in DMs and in comments and whatnot. Feel free to ask any questions or give any other suggestions about things if you feel like there's a method that I might have missed that's worth covering, so that other people can see that information. If you guys have, also if you want to connect with me more, Twitch, Discord in the description. I stream in the evenings on Twitch, not every day, so just be abreast of that. Just follow and find out when I stream, or come hang out in the Discord. I'm always active there, always available to chat, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.